Okay, so this tutorial is going to be on glitching an image using a text editor on a Mac. So since I don't have access to a PC, I'm going to be performing this tutorial on Mac-specific hardware and software. I did provide a few resources in Canvas and also in the tutorial on how to do the same process using an application on a PC. So if you can't figure out how to make your tutorial work on the PC after watching my video, you might need to go and look at somebody else's instructions on how to do that using Notepad. So I, at this point, have only set up my folder, and I've set it up in a more robust way than the tutorial instructions are asking you to do it. And so I'm just going to explain what I've done. And you do not need to do what I've done, but I've done it this way because I'm going to be leading the tutorials and I want to make sure everything's organized. So to get started with this tutorial, there is instruction on creating a folder for your tutorials, which would be your name -glitch tuts. You can also see the glitch tuts over here in my or on my desktop. So here's my folder, and then inside I have 4 subfolders. So what I have in here is I have a folder for my Audacity tutorials once I get there. I also have a folder in here which has the 2 original images that I downloaded for the tutorial. You might have a folder in here that would be the original image files that you intend to work with, just to keep them all in the same place. Now these are the 2 that I actually provided for you, but you might have other image files that you would prefer to work with. I'm storing these inside of my folder because we need to retain an original of all of our images, because as soon as we open up an image and start to do the data bending, then we will corrupt that file. And so we won't then be able to recover that file. So we need to start and have originals like these that we will then make a copy of and do the glitching to that copy of the file. So this is going to be where I keep my backups, my originals. These are the start versions of the files. And then when I am ready to actually work with one, like I am right now for text and hex editing, I have moved a copy of this image into the folder, which I am then going to duplicate in here and rename, and I will glitch that one. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to duplicate this particular image inside of this folder just so that I have a local copy in here. That's more than I really need to do because I do have this same file available in my originals folder, but I'm going to do that anyway. So for me to duplicate, I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go to duplicate. And then the new file that I have, I'm going to be renaming that. So the renamed file is going to be called Natalie, or your name -text hex 1. So this is the first one that I am going to be glitching, and I need to have 3 by the time I'm done. So now here's the file that I'm actually going to be working with. The next step for us to go if we're working on a Mac is we're going to open this image up into the preview application so that we'll have a window with the image visible on the screen, and I'm just going to go ahead and shrink that window, and I'm going to move it over here into the upper left hand corner. And this is going to be a window where each time I make a change to the file in the text editor, I'm going to save it, and the updated version of the file is going to show up here for me, so I can choose whether or not I like it and I want to keep moving, or I like it and I want to stop, or I want to undo something that I had just done. So I'm going to keep this up here. It's kind of going to be my live view window. Now the next step for me is I need to take that same file that I'm seeing over here in preview, and I am going to right click on it and I'm going to open with, and none of these are the things that I want to open it with, so I'm going to go all the way down into other, And inside of Other, it's going to bring me into a full list of the applications that can open up this file. And I'm going to scroll all the way down until I find TextEdit, the app. And I'm going to say Open. Now, when TextEdit opens, I can go ahead and just maybe minimize this screen for now so that I'm only looking at the text file version of my image and then the visual version of my image. And the first thing I want us to do right now is just start to scroll. And what you can see over here is the size of the scroll bar, which tells me about how long this file is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it like a really long scroll so you can get an idea about how much text-based data is inside of this file, and how this is the same as this. So this is one way to see this image, and this is one way to see this data. And it's a really interesting correspondence between the two of them. So you can see in here that there's a lot of gobbledygook, special characters, characters that we're very unfamiliar with, weird sequences of characters, etc. So this is the data that we are going to be playing with. Remembering back to a few of the tips and expectations for glitch that I outlined in the other posting on Canvas, a couple of things that I would not mess around with would be the first 10% of the file and the last 10% of the data of the file, because these are the header and the footer of the file, and there's really critical information in there about how to understand the file type. So if we mess with that too much, it's possible that we will data break our file as opposed to bend it, right? So when I look at this overall, what I'm thinking about is if I were to break this down into fractions, right, into 10 equal parts, I'm going to avoid messing with the first 10% or the first 1/10 of this. So after I kind of get through there, what I'm going to do is come down a little bit further, and I'll make my first modification. So for me right now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and make a selection of a portion of this content, and I'm starting off fairly large right now. So I have made a selection, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut that data. So I'm removing it, but also copying it at the same time. On my computer, that is a Command X. That data has been removed. I'm going to save this file, Command S, and when I do that, when I come over here and look inside of my preview window, I can see that when I removed that data and saved the file over here in TextEdit, that I had a change to the way that the visual looks on my screen. Now, one of the cool things about this is that I can actually, in TextEdit, step backwards or undo using Command Z. So I just pasted that data back into the place that it originally existed, and I'm going to save again, Command S. Now, when I look over here inside of inside of Preview, I'm going to see that when I stepped back in TextEdit, I undid and then resaved, I went back to the original image. So if there's something that I do and I don't like it, I can actually undo in the text editor, resave it, and I'm going to be able to step back in the visual version of the image. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, let me try something different. So here's the selection that I was working with. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same block of content, and I'm just going to copy it this time. And how about if I go down after that, and I'm just going to go ahead and make some space, and then I'm going to paste the information back in. So now I have duplicate data, one block of data copied, pasted below, and now I have it duplicated. So I'm going to save, Command S. I'm going to come back into Preview, and there's my new change. So we saw what happened when I removed data, and now we've seen what's happened since I have duplicated data, and now I can continue going on with this, or I could stop here if this was enough for me. I'm going to go ahead and try a little bit more, so I'm going to move down a little bit, and I'm going to take another block of data, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to move down significantly, and I'm going to paste it somewhere else. So I don't know, here seems like a good spot, so I'm going to go ahead and Command V to paste, and then I'm going to Command V to paste again, and then I'm going to Command V to paste again. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to come over here, and this is the new change that has happened. Am I pleased with it? Is this where I want to continue to build from? Or do I want to undo and go back? I'm actually going to undo. So I'm going to come back into my text editor. I'm going to Command Z, and Command Z. And then I'll go ahead and save it again. Come back over into the text editor, and I can see that I might not have gone back far enough. So it's possible that I have now done a little bit more than what I wanted. So I'm going to continue to go back and then come over here and save. Looks like I might have gone a little bit too far. So if I can't go back any further, then maybe I should just continue to go forward. So now what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and move down a little bit further. And maybe what I'll start doing is just deleting data. Come through here, delete the data, make another selection, and delete the data. And then I'll go ahead and save the file, head over into my preview, and see if I have anything else that's of interest to me. It's not really changing very much, so I'm going to make a really dramatic change right now. I'm going to select a significant portion of the content in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I will copy it. And I'm going to come down just a little bit further and I will paste that information. I'm going to save that up. I'm going to come over here into my preview window. And it doesn't really look like I'm getting a whole lot of change from here. So I might have gone a little bit too far. I might have done a little bit more breaking than bending. That's okay though, this is an experimental process. So I look at that now and I go, not that visually interested in it anymore. I really liked it after my first change. So maybe I will either continue to work on this one or close this one out and start over again. So I think that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out of my text hex JPEG 1. I'm going to take this and close out inside of preview. I'm going to go back into my folder. And then what we should see in here now is that on the text hex, I have my text hex 1. So here's my first example of working with the text editor to make some modifications. And then here is the original image again, which I'm going to duplicate and I'm going to start the process over. So I'm going to take this file. I am going to duplicate it. I am going to rename it Natalie text hex 2, and then I'm going to again open it up into preview, so I can right click and say open with preview app, which is my default right now. Again, I'm going to scale this and make it a little bit smaller so that it is not taking up too much space, and then I'm also going to open the same file using, I right clicked, I said open with other. I'm going to find TextEdit and say open. Here's my file in its data form right now. And so again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down a little bit further. And I think for this one, actually, I'm going to try something a little bit different. So I'm going to actually go online right now. And I have open a page, an article that is about glitching images. And so what I'm going to do with this actually is I am going to come in here and grab the text information that is the beginning of this article. And I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go back in, so let me minimize the screen. I'm going to go back in here into the data version of this file, and I'm going to add that writing sample into my project. So I'm going to come down about halfway through, and I'm going to go ahead and hit return a number of times just so that I can kind of find my place. And I'm going to paste that text passage in here. So when we look at it now, we can actually see that I'm adding in sort of like English language data as a way to glitch or modify or data mosh, right? Like bringing together different types of data. And let's see what happens with that. So I'm going to save the file. I'm going to come over here and there's my result, okay? Is it impressive? Maybe not quite so impressive. So I'm going to come back into my file in here. I'm going to undo that. I will save it again. So I did Command Z in here. I'm going to save it again, come back over, and there's my file right? So I didn't commit to those changes. I saved them, but then I went and I undid and I resaved, and now I'm back to the original. So I'm kind of curious if I can make that, if that can give me any other effect besides just like a large green box. So maybe this time what I'll do is I'll go back into the browser. Let me pull that up for a moment. And maybe what I'll do is I will just grab in a little bit at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy a small portion of this, which says, in a world defined by efficiency, the infallible performance of bodies and systems is often taken for granted. So what happens when failure occurs? I'm going to go back into TextEdit. I'm going to again make sure I'm past the first 10% in here. I'm going to make a little bit of space and paste that text in. I'm going to save this and open up my image in preview. And there, I have a slightly less dramatic modification to the file, which I'm liking a little bit better. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to grab another small passage that says, the true nature of the machine and the wilderness hidden underneath the orderly surface suddenly makes itself evident through a glitch. And then I'm going to come back in to TextEdit. I'm going to move down a little bit further, find another spot to insert my new passage in there. I'm going to save that, and then let's go look at it in preview. So I got a little bit of an offset in here. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but the image is kind of wrapping itself around and coming back on the other side. So it seems like these like smaller interventions where I'm adding text content into my image is working fairly effectively. Let's try one more. So I'm going to take the next passage, which says, a glitch is a rupture in information flow, which forces the digital file out of its flawless, hyper-realistic design to a reality of randomness and imperfection. Sounds about right. I'm going to go back in to TextEdit. I'm going to move down a ways. I'm going to insert a bit of this text content. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to look at my image in preview. And you can see it's moved it around a little bit more. So I'm going to continue on with this process. Let's see here. Therefore, malfunction and failure are not signs of improper production. On the contrary, they indicate the active production of the accidental potential in any product. And then it continues. I'm going to go back in here. It's a much larger passage this time. Let's see what happens if we sort of add it in a little bit further down the page. I'm going to go down about 2/3 of the way, and I will insert that content in here. I'm going to make a save, go back into preview in here. There's another change to it. So I'm really liking this process. I love the conceptual approach of taking text content that speaks to imperfection and glitch on sort of a theoretical level, and now I'm actually modifying the appearance of my image by moshing together the conceptual language about glitch, imperfection, and error with an image that I am actually glitching, which I'm really kind of interested in. So when I'm done with this one, this file is actually already saved for me inside of my folder right now. So let me go ahead and pull up my folder so that we can look at it. So here's my current version, and I could continue going on with this. I could duplicate this file right now at the position where it is currently and then open it up and continue to add more so that I can kind of get like a version of it right here where I've added in 4 passages. And then I could use this as a starting, right? So if I were to duplicate this file right here, I could change this one and say text hex2-extended, because maybe I'm going to continue going on with that and I don't want to mess up the one that I currently have, but I want to see how much further I can push it. So what I did was I just created a duplicate of this current file that we're looking at. I can open that one up into TextEdit and also into preview, and I can continue adding more stimulus to then create changes and glitches in the project. I hope that that helps give you a little bit more confidence in going in and working with the text or the hex editors in here. This is not using a hex editor, though there are resources online for you to modify the hex code as opposed to the text code of a file, which you're also more than welcome to do. Okay, take care. Happy glitching.